Hello, everyone, and welcome to Mountain Lake Journal. I'm Tom Halley. This week, Congress has forced the Department of Veterans Affairs to reverse a long-time ban that has kept thousands of Navy veterans exposed to Agent Orange during the Vietnam War from receiving benefits.
Under the current VA rules, the only U.S. veterans who are counted as having been exposed to Agent Orange are people who actually walked on the ground on Vietnamese soil and the people who served on boats in Vietnamese rivers. This means that thousands of U.S. Navy veterans who were exposed to Agent Orange while stationed on ships just off the Vietnamese coastline are not being served adequately by the VA. This doesn't make any sense, and it isn't fair to those veterans who also served and also encountered Agent Orange and who are just as sick today.
There has been a bipartisan push in Congress over the past several years to include Blue Water Navy veterans who served on ships in the waters off the coast of Vietnam and Cambodia from 1962 to 1975. Tens of thousands of those veterans who now have diseases and health conditions linked to their exposure to the chemical herbicide Agent Orange can now seek disability benefits. Congress finally passed the Blue Water Navy Vietnam Veterans Act of 2019 this past summer. At a Veterans Day pinning ceremony in Plattsburgh last month, North Country Congresswoman Elise Stefanik talked about the new law that goes into effect next month.
This was finally signed into law this past year, which restores benefits for thousands of sailors who served in the territorial seas of Vietnam and Cambodia. We were able to get that done after years and years of advocacy from the veterans community.
And joining us this week is Steve Bowman, the director of the Clinton County Veterans Service Agency. Nice to see you. Welcome.
Thank you.
Let's delve right into this a little bit more. We just heard a few moments ago from Senator Gillibrand from back in 2016. There has been a push in Congress for a number of years now to include these Navy veterans with other Vietnam War veterans who may have been exposed to Agent Orange.
Yes.
Who are these Blue Water Navy veterans?
Blue Water Navy veterans are classified by the VA and even by DOD as veterans that served aboard ship during the Vietnam War that were in the deep waters, in the territorial waters of Vietnam. It recognizes them if their ship was within the 12 nautical miles of the shoreline. And under the current law, the VA will start processing claims for Agent Orange related disabilities. And this can be substantial for a lot of these veterans and or their surviving spouses. Because the law is very specific that if the veteran had ever filed a claim previously and was denied, the VA has to re-adjudicate that claim back to the original date of that claim. Which conceivably leaves open the door for potential benefits back to that original date, no matter how long ago it was. So this rights the wrong, 30 years later, and these veterans now and their surviving spouses are due benefits because of that wrong. The VA has and was required to notify all of those veterans that had filed previous claims that they had to resubmit paperwork before the end of this calendar year to be considered under the law. The way that the law is written is if a veteran had filed a claim, say back in the 80s or in the 90s, and was denied, for the VA to consider retroactive benefits back to that date, they must file paperwork back to the VA before December 31st, 2019. If they wait until after January 1st, 2020, then their benefits are going to be effective January 1st, 2020.
That's the word you're trying to get out to.
I'm trying to get
these
that
veterans
word
now.
out.
They need to get filed before the end of the year.
They need to file now. There is no delay. There is no, let's wait and see what happens. It is now. We've been very busy with many veterans and surviving spouses from that era that are from Navy veterans that had filed disability claims previously, getting their paperwork submitted to the VA. But there's only a few days left, working days left, before the end of the calendar year. So if there is anyone that we can reach that needs to file that paperwork, they can reach out to us, give us a call. We can assist them with the paperwork and get it to the VA within an hour or two, because we can fax it directly to the VA. Once they have it in their hands, they have a responsibility to date stamp it, and that becomes the effective date.
So there really is a rush here. They need to get in touch with you as soon as possible.
Yes, they can't delay. I know we've seen a lot of people already in reference to this, but I'm concerned about those surviving spouses that may not have a computer, or may have gotten a letter from the VA and didn't understand what it said and just kind of put it off on the counter or tossed it, that they may potentially be eligible for benefits. And all it takes is a phone call to our office, and we can review what they received and tell them what they need to do from there.
If they miss the deadline, and it's after January 1st, they can get benefits, but they can't get benefits that date back.
Correct.
So
they will be
critical.
effective the date of the law, or the date of the January 1st, 2020.
How many Navy veterans do you think this affects?
There could be a million. When you think of 1962 to 1975, there could be a million Navy vets that were denied, that served aboard ships along the coast. You're talking aircraft carriers, destroyers, freighters.
There is a set list, a number of medical conditions and cancers
Yes.
that have been linked to Agent Orange exposure.
Yes, and that's always changing too. The VA right now, the Secretary of the VA is considering adding hypertension to that list.
There were millions of gallons of that sprayed across Southeast Asia from the late 50s right through the early 70s.
Correct.
Troops on the ground have been eligible for benefits for a number of years now. Also, Navy veterans who are on the patrol boats that went up the rivers.
Yes.
The brown water
that
veterans.
was classified as brown
They've all
water.
been eligible.
Yes.
So this is for the blue water
Yes.
veterans who are on the aircraft carriers, on the destroyers, further out in the
Yes.
water. Why has the VA opposed this for so many years?
Truthfully, it's been the amount of money that would have to be paid in compensation. When you think about the millions of individuals that would be due compensation for benefits and the amount of compensation that could be paid, this law itself could be in the billions that the VA is going to have to pay out through compensation. And that affects the budget when you're talking to our people down in Washington, D.C. There's no other reason why somebody would argue against it, in reality.